Alright, what's going on everybody? So yesterday was the big day for Microsoft and Bethesda. Their joint games showcase was over an hour and a half long, with the focus being on titles releasing within the next 12 months. So far this year has been very dry for both Microsoft and Sony. Microsoft desperately needed to show us some compelling games to win back the many people that canceled their Game Pass subscription after Starfield and Redfall got delayed. Going into this conference, I expected them to lean heavily into Game Pass, since their biggest games for this year are now expected to arrive in 2023. I was also expecting to see more of the previously announced games like Hellblade 2, Avowed, Fable, and Contraband. Xbox currently has 23 game studios, not counting Activision Blizzard, since the deal hasn't closed yet. There was a lot that they could show us, so I was hoping that they would deliver a banger showcase, as the last couple E3 events from them were pretty great. Weeks ago, an insider stated that almost every first-party studio submitted something for the showcase. Now that the event is over, I gotta ask, where are those games? We know that Xbox has games coming, but why aren't they showing them? Yesterday I put up a poll asking my subscribers to grade the showcase, and 58% of y'all gave it an A. I respect your opinion, but to be honest, I thought it was a very underwhelming showcase. I would go so far as to say it might be the worst showcase in years in terms of content. In terms of pacing, it was perfect. It was nothing but game after game, with someone from the Xbox team coming out occasionally. It's commendable that they showed some gameplay for a lot of titles, although there were a lot of CG trailers as expected. I think it was wise of them to highlight some of the games coming out of the rest of the year in addition to those releasing in the first half of 2023. They needed to show Xbox gamers what they could look forward to for the rest of 2022. Unfortunately, they didn't show anything compelling for this year. Scorn was probably the best thing that they showed in terms of a new game releasing this year, but that's not saying much. It doesn't look amazing or anything, but it might be a decent horror game. Honestly, I'm tired of seeing this game. It's been in development for years. Hopefully it won't get delayed and will finally release this October. My two biggest issues with this showcase was the absence of those big previously announced games from last year and the lack of any bombshell announcements. Out of all the new AAA titles Xbox Studios has in the works, they only showed two: Redfall and Starfield, in which they were practically obligated to show those games at this point. They opened the show with Redfall, the zombie shooter co-op action game from Arcane. What they showed looked fine, but it was nothing mind-blowing. Honestly, I would rather see Arcane work on Dishonored 3 or do another Prey. This looked like a potentially better version of Left 4 Dead with more of a narrative and access to superpowers. They closed the show with Starfield, a game that Todd Howard and the team over at Bethesda has been hyping up for a while. The gameplay they showed didn't look impressive, it just looked like Fallout in space. It didn't seem to be running well either, the frame rate didn't seem stable, and visually it just didn't look next gen. Generally speaking, there was nothing at this showcase that seemed next gen in terms of graphics or gameplay. Xbox hasn't shown us anything that really takes advantage of these expensive new consoles, and that's a problem, but to be fair, neither has Sony. Anyway, the coolest thing from the Starfield gameplay was the ship customization. This game is yet another ambitious space exploration game, promising players the ability to travel to different solar systems. The scope of this game seems to be on par with No Man's Sky, maybe even Beyond Good and Evil 2. I have a hard time believing that Bethesda will be able to pull this whole thing off successfully without it being a buggy mess at launch. In addition to new IP like Starfield and Redfall, they showed off the new Forza game, which is a given. By now you're either into Forza or you're not. As for me, I can never get into simulation racers, so I'm not interested in that at all. This showcase was really lacking any big announcements and compelling new games. Don't get me wrong, the Persona games coming to Game Pass, that is certainly good news for those people who haven't played it on Xbox yet. Aside from that, there really wasn't anything here to get extremely hyped about. Other than Persona, there was the Kojima partnership, which was leaked a while back. I can't get excited for this new project until I see competent gameplay after that disappointing UPS simulator that was Death Stranding. I am happy to see Kojima working with Xbox as opposed to Sony, but Death Stranding 2 is also in the works according to Norman Reedus. I hate to sound like a broken record, but there was just nothing here that got me excited like the Devil May Cry 5 reveal 4 years ago. There was a point where I thought they were gonna reveal a new Ninja Gaiden when Phil Spencer came out and was talking about Team Ninja. That would have been awesome, but unfortunately it was some Dynasty Warriors looking CGI trailer for a new game called Wulong Fallen Dynasty. I hope to God it's not another Musou game. In my opinion, the best new game announcements they showed were Flintlock, The Siege of Dawn, and Ereban Shadow Legacy. Ereban is a stealth action game that reminds me of a game from a few years ago called Origami. Love the art style and the main character looks cool. The trailer showed a little gameplay that looks like it'll be fun. That game and Flintlock will be good additions to the Game Pass library when they release. Speaking of Flintlock, that game is looking better than the new God of War titles. Sure, graphically, God of War Ragnarok is obviously superior, but gameplay wise this looks much better than what we got in 2018 and what Ragnarok will be expanding on. I'm always looking out for a good hack and slash action game, so I definitely will be checking this out when it releases in 2023. In addition to those new games, they also revealed a new FPS from the creator of Rick and Morty called High on Life. I'm not a fan of Rick and Morty and its humor, and the game just doesn't look appealing to me, but I think it looked alright. There were of course other games that Microsoft showed off that weren't notable, or to be blunt, looked like shovelware. For instance, they showed some game where you use a mech to farm. There was also As Dusk Falls, which isn't even a game, more like an interactive movie. I hate seeing stuff like that at these showcases. It didn't even look visually appealing with its motion comic book art style. At least stuff like Until Dawn has some bits of gameplay and looks really cinematic. They also showed off gameplay for Hollow Knight Silksong, a game that I just don't understand the hype for. It isn't visually appealing at all. It honestly reminds me of the old Newgrounds Flash games I would play in elementary school. Years ago I would always say that there are certain games that shouldn't be shown alongside big AAA games, and Microsoft showed off a lot of that yesterday. All things considered, I thought that this wasn't a very good showing for Microsoft. I honestly think Jeff Keighley's presentation on Thursday was much better in terms of content. As I stated before, there was a lot of stuff that they should have shown that wasn't there for whatever reason. I understand why Outer Worlds 2 or the Indiana Jones game wasn't there, but the fact that they went another year without showing Fable gameplay is ridiculous. And this is coming from someone who isn't even a fan of Fable. I've never played Fable, but I'm interested in seeing how that game is going to play, right? There were other games that it would have been nice to see revealed, such as the co-op Monster Hunter style game from Certain Affinity and a new Wu-Tang Clan game that wasn't there. They failed to show enough to really entice people to subscribe to Game Pass, which is what they desperately need at a time when the company isn't consistently releasing must-play titles. I thought they would have announced upcoming games like Saints Row or Gotham Knights coming to Game Pass this year in order to gain back the subscribers that they recently lost. Those games might not end up being very good, but I argue that they'd be more appealing than a lot of the smaller stuff that they showed yesterday. So if I had to grade this presentation, I would probably give it a D. Y'all can let me know in the comment section below why you think I'm wrong, but I can't give this a higher rating than that. Even Sony's most recent State of Play might have been better than that, and for the record, those usually aren't very good. Anyway, comment down below what you thought about the showcase, and as always, thank you guys for watching. I'm out of here. Peace.